You are welcome to HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. As the Chicago Appeal Court awaits a decision with respect to the recently finalized R. Kelly appeal hearing, the New York appeal process is scheduled to commence on the 18th of March 2024. While the Chicago appeal focused on the 240-month sentence that was way above the standard sentencing guidelines, and the violated statutes of limitations which should have protected R. Kelly from being prosecuted on certain counts, the New York appeal will focus on overturning the RICO charges, Mann Act charges and the forced labor charges that were all unfairly imposed onto defendant. Reference to Attorney Jennifer Bonjean's appeal brief for the New York case details her points as follows. According to Bonjean, the government did fail to prove defendant guilty of racketeering where the record is devoid of evidence of an enterprise, comprised of members who shared a common illegal or fraudulent purpose and where the defendant and the alleged enterprise were indistinct. In her statement of the case, Bonjean describes how defendant R. Kelly, who doubles as a renowned artist dubbed the R&B King, was charged with leading a racketeer-influenced and corrupt organization, one allegedly comprised of individuals whose objective was to promote defendant's music, and to recruit women and girls into illegal sexual activity with defendant, and allegedly to produce CP. She adds that defendant unsuccessfully moved to dismiss the RICO count pre-trial, arguing that the government failed to sufficiently prove a RICO enterprise. Bonjean states that this racketeering charge was connected to alleged sexual misconduct said to have been committed against several women including Geronda Pace, Azriel Clary, and Faith Rogers. Reviewing the stories of these women, however, starting with the way they met R. Kelly and the events that followed thereafter, reveals patterns that just don't justify the racketeering charges. Geronda, for example, met R. Kelly on her own right outside the courthouse during the 2008 trial. There is actually impeccable pictorial evidence all over the internet that shows her stalking R. Kelly, and approaching him on her own without any sort of assistance by the alleged enterprise to bring the two together. According to the story in the trial transcript, in May of 2009, Geronda Pace received an invitation to a party at defendant's home. Geronda then spoke to defendant and the two exchanged phone numbers, and she falsely lied to him she was 19 years old. A few days later, defendant allegedly invited her back to his house where the two engaged in sexual contact. According to Geronda, she then felt uncomfortable and privately confessed to defendant that she was actually 16 years old. That was all after the alleged contact had already happened. According to the transcripts, Geronda did not disclose to any other person she met around the R&B King that she was actually 16 and not 19. It is therefore understandable that no other person, employee of R. Kelly, otherwise knew about her secret age to find the need to intervene in any way. To therefore assume that Geronda was a victim of a RICO enterprise of organized crime is not only a myth, but also an impossibility. The first requirement to prove this would have been the involvement of every other member of the enterprise in luring her to R. Kelly, and knowledge that she was actually 16 years old and not 19. Both events lacking from the testimonies presented in the trial transcript. The transcript also suggests that Geronda continued visiting defendant and having sex with him for approximately 8 months, claiming he slapped her once and almost choked her for disrespecting him, after which she sued him. There is nowhere in the trial transcript where an illegal enterprise is insinuated. If the government leaned on the invitation to his house for a party that was likely done by another person, they are so wrong to imagine this as a RICO enterprise, because clearly, this woman had been long stalking R. Kelly on her own, and she only managed to exchange contacts with R. Kelly after this party. Any RICO activities, if any, were supposed to have come after this exchange of contacts between Geronda and defendant, and no such acts are stated anywhere on the trial transcript. All information available shows that just like Geronda did the stalking and chasing all by herself, R. Kelly acted alone throughout his contact with her, if any, and this cannot in any way be considered racketeering. And when it comes to claims of racketeering related to Azriel, they also miserably fail to prove an illegal enterprise. According to the trial transcript, Azriel and her parents attended one of defendant's concerts in Orlando, Florida, April 2015. Jane, who claims she was 17 years old by then, allegedly made eye contact with defendant during his performance, and danced on stage on the same show. Interestingly, Azriel's mother began texting R. Kelly and pretending to be her daughter after the show, and that was after Azriel had attempted to call on his number several times and failed to reach him. Like Geronda, when Azriel finally managed to speak to defendant, she also lied about her age, suggesting she was 18. To further convince R. Kelly she was an adult, at a police check where concerned police officers checked her ID, they also confirmed she was actually 18 like she alleged. With her mother's consent, she then made it to Los Angeles to attend defendant's music shows, after which they allegedly had sexual contact. Azriel then moved to Chicago to stay with defendant, who, after learning she had lied about her age and was 17, sent her back home to her parents in Florida. Again with consent of her parents, Azriel returned to Chicago in September of 2015 and later turned 18 in December of the same year. Along with other live-in girlfriends, Azriel lived with defendant for another 5 years. There is nowhere in the trial transcript where a RICO enterprise is in any way insinuated, unless the parents are the guilty party, for it looks like it was them pushing their daughter to be with R. Kelly, and to lie about her age so she could accept to be with her. It was also her mother busy messaging R. Kelly on her behalf, making him think and believe that indeed Azriel was an adult. On account of Faith Rogers, she met with defendant back in San Antonio, Texas when she was already a 19-year-old adult. The trial transcript then states that she and her sister were invited to an after-party where she exchanged phone numbers with defendant. The two began texting regularly and had 5 sexual encounters on 5 different occasions. Defendant then allegedly arranged for Faith to travel to New York on 2 occasions where they again had intercourse. She then speaks of a single encounter where she allegedly found a gun lying on the table and still routinely did it with defendant, claiming this was forced labor. Again, like in the cases of Geronda and Azriel Clary, there was completely no record mention of an illegal racketeering organization to comprise a RICO. In conclusion, therefore, R. Kelly's attorney Jennifer Bonjean does conclude as follows. Galvanized by an influential social movement determined to punish centuries of male misbehavior through symbolic prosecution of high-profile men, the government brought RICO prosecution against the defendant that were absurdly remote from the drafter's intent. According to Bonjean, the government crafted a RICO theory that was designed not to effectuate the purpose of the RICO statute but to prosecute the defendant for alleged misdeeds going back decades without the obstacles of the statutes of limitations. And in the end, the government's evidence, as appears in the trial transcript, failed to show a collective of individuals who shared any common purpose other than to promote his music business. There was no illegal enterprise. If you wish to take part in a live interview on this channel discussing any of these topics, let us know by emailing us on sashahnnewsroom@gmail.com for scheduling. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.